Hey everyone, what if Donald Trump becomes the 47th President of the United States? Let's dive into what could happen around the world. If that's happened, stick with me, it's going to be interesting us. First, let's talk about how it would feel if Trump made a comeback to the White House after his first term. Would things go back to the way they were before? Maybe, or maybe he will try to make even bigger changes this time. But one thing's for sure, he will be bringing his bold style with him. Trump's presidency was known for being loud and controversial. His supporters love him for his directness and tough policies, while his critics says he's too unpredictable. So what would the world expect from a second term? Let's start with what would likely happen inside the US if Trump becomes president again. We could see changes in areas like taxes, healthcare, and even how the US interacts with other countries. Trump has talked a lot about cutting taxes, especially for businesses. So expect more tax breaks for companies that might help the economy in the short term, but could also lead to big debates about whether the rich get too much help. Healthcare. Trump was a big critic of Obama care and tried to replace it. He might push for more changes there, but it's nuclear how far that would go. Now let's think about the world. Trump's foreign policy was all about America first, meaning like he focused on getting the best deals for the US. He didn't always play by the rules of other countries. But what does that mean for the world? Trump's relationships with countries like China, Russia, and NATO were often rocky. If he becomes president again, we might see tougher negotiations with China over trade, especially on issues like tariffs. And with Russia, it could be a game of who can outsmart who, with Trump balancing both tough talk and personal meetings. He might also continue to pressure NATO to spend more money on defense as he did during his first term. Issue that's been controversial under Trump is climate change. During his first term, he pulled the US out of the Paris Climate Agreement, which upset a lot of world leaders. If he returns, he might focus less on climate policies and more on energy independence, using things like oil and gas. However, the rest of the world is getting more focused on climate change, and other countries might not be happy if Trump keeps pulling the US away from global efforts to save the planet. About the economy, Trump trade wars, especially with China, were a big deal in his first term. If he becomes president again, expect him to push for even more deals that focus on putting American jobs first. This could mean some big changes to how we trade with other countries. Some people say this could lead to stronger US economy. Others worry it might make products more expensive for consumers. It's a tough balance. Under Trump's leadership, America saw protests over issues like racial justice, police reform, and immigration. If he becomes president again, those issues might get even more attention, especially if his policies are seen as favoring one group over another. Trump's supporters believe in his law and order approach, but his critics says his policies don't always protect minorities. So expect a lot of debate and possibly more protests around social justice issues. Trump's policies also affected technology companies, especially with things like the tech gains getting more scrutiny. If he comes back, expect more regulations on companies like Google, Facebook, and Twitter. He has been very vocal about his issues with them. This could lead to major changes in how we use technology in the future, both in the US and around the world. Finally, what will Trump's legacy be if he becomes president again? Some people will remember him for shaking up Washington and standing up to the political establishment. Others will criticize him for his handling of certain crises and policies. Whether you love him or hate him, one thing's clear: Trump is a polarizing figure, and his second term would definitely keep the world. So, what do you think now he become the 47th president? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.